Hello and welcome to Missing BTS Hours. I'm Cindy, a longtime ARMY, and in this podcast, I am discussing BTS under the context of their hiatus and ARMY's relationship to them during this time of scandals, of enlistment, and generally the lack of live content together as a group. It will be also lots of reminiscing and keeping up to date with their various activities, both online and off. This podcast is for you, ARMY. Let's get started. Episode 1 will entail basically a very small chronological timeline of their success and their general presence in the Western music scene. I only will be talking about 2017 and onwards. While I was researching for this episode, I came across 2 articles from 2 different Korean music critics that talk about BTS and their mainstream success. And they had lots to say about it. They had some kind of fair, a bit unbiased takes, because it takes a bit of direction to say things that are not necessarily savory, nice towards such a big group that represents them as a country, because a lot of Americans or people abroad, people not familiar with Korea as a country, will often have BTS as its synonym, and that is something to acknowledge. But here we go, 2017. This was, for me, the first time I've ever heard of them, and once I started understanding where they came from and the music and became invested with them through their music videos, that's when I became an ARMY. We have the Billboard Music Awards, which was their breakthrough. It was their first win ever, and in the American sphere, they beat Justin Bieber and they snagged the Top Social Artist Award, and then they would win it for the next 5 consecutive years after that. The Billboard, they discontinued the category in 2021. BTS won that last one, and yeah, something to acknowledge there. Before 2016, however, Justin Bieber actually won that specific award for 6 consecutive years, so BTS kind of dethroned him for that. The AMAs, the American Music Awards, was something kind of similar. They had another first that they accomplished. They were the first Korean act to perform there. It was something that created so much buzz that, I think those were the beginnings. Those really were the beginnings for them here in the US and internationally, especially here, also in Latin America. I think the Grammys, though, back in 2019, when it was their first time at the awards, it was something to be amazed about, inspired about, because even though they were there just to present an award, they were the first group to ever be part of that and to be invited in such a way. It kind of gave ARMY the hopes that they would win a Grammy eventually, if not the next year. And obviously, the next year would be 2020, which was in the start of the COVID pandemic. So that didn't happen, but we know that in 2021, when they started the award show again, they had their first nomination then, and they did not win it. They would continue to be nominated for specific categories, but they have yet to win. And it was something that ARMYs were so disappointed about, angered. BTS was also in that same mindset. They looked so disillusioned, and to me that's something to acknowledge as well, because when you become so enamored with the idea of winning such a crazy huge award, and to not receive it is something that obviously would kill your type of self-esteem, but also just kind of make you wonder the legitimacy of an award. And that's exactly what ARMY did in Twitter, in the internet spaces. They all kind of realized that BTS was suddenly becoming much bigger than the Grammys, because the Grammys would often invite them to perform after, and it was obviously a gimmick. It was something to show the world that they were able to secure this K-pop group, but make them perform only at the very end so they can get those ratings. And it was something that was so obvious that they were being used as marketing ploys, and specifically that for popularity and ratings. Now we'll get into the 2 articles I saw that discuss music critics of Korea and their outlook on BTS itself as a unit, their mainstream success, and other things. I want to highlight some words from Im Jin-mo. Essentially, he says the way in which BTS announced their military enlistment was a shocker, and there was no humility to their statement. because they brought up a discussion about the K-pop system in a broader context, that it has an intense workload and uses up the artist's potential. It's something that I feel like should sound more objective than it is. It's no secret that the K-pop system has a certain methodology of creating K-pop groups, of successful K-pop groups that can deliver numbers. He has a lot of truth here that BTS really did bring this thing of awareness when it came to K-pop and how it can really hurt and break a human person that is trying to follow their passion for music and dance. But it's a little interesting because he is acknowledging that obviously that the K-pop industry does have those things, but he says that it would be ideal to move forward towards solving those problems, but he says that their announcement wasn't a good approach and that the timing was just off because there's many K-pop acts, and he says this, that would gladly go through such intense schedules for a fraction of BTS's stardom. And he says that as individuals, in this statement, BTS showed no humility. And to me, that's an interesting read. I think there is some truth to that. I think their stardom was so immense and it was pretty quick of a thing compared to how long they've been in the industry for. They've been in the industry for at least 10 years, starting off with RM being one of the original members of the group. This music critic here has some truth when it comes to the fact that like the timing of it all kind of seems a little weird because they've been enjoying a specific amount of success that is so unbelievable and so unimaginable to a lot of people that are trying to break out in this same industry, that they should also kind of acknowledge that. There's another critic, his name is Jung Min-jae, and he says that BTS has had its own difficulties, but truthfully speaking, it's also received a lot of support. Dismissing all that and bringing the whole system down as a top-tier star seems discouraging for the rest of the people in the industry. So he alludes to a similar idea. They probably have grown so big to the point where like they kind of are forgetting their roots. Jung Min-jae says before Dynamite and stuff, they entered the Billboard charts, but it seems like their ranks drop after a couple of weeks after all the streaming campaigns go away. He says that this suggests that, being that they're not actually organic hits and that they're more just these things that have been boosted by ARMY itself, which again, there is some truth to that. ARMY does boost a lot of charts through campaigns and like streams and like things like that. So it's not something to disagree upon, honestly. So yeah, they brought up a lot of valid points, but also as a person that's very sympathetic to BTS as a music unit as well as people, it's just something that I want to kind of like understand more and just go like, well, they're human beings first and foremost. Like maybe the fame did get to their head a little bit in 2022 and stuff like that, and like it's understandable because they're very new to this, but however, to keep in mind that even if you have all this fame and money and like newfound things like that, you have to remember there's a certain air that you have to keep presenting and kind of have a constant reminder that you have to remember your roots. You have to keep encouraging people to view you as human beings. And I think these music critics made these statements before all of the solo work that has been coming out since 2022. A lot of the music that RM specifically has produced after 2022 kind of proves them a little wrong, because he has always been wanting to be seen by ARMY and the outside world as a human being first and foremost before RM, international K-pop group leader. So that's something to acknowledge too, because that's been a recent development. And first and foremost, the music is really good. I encourage anyone who hasn't heard RM's work yet to please listen, because his albums have been really great in giving the world this kind of plate of, I am a human being first and foremost, and I deserve equal respect, and I have roots of my own that will always stay with me. That's what I got most out of his album in general. But yeah, thank you guys again for listening. This has been really fun to do, so let's keep it going. Thank you so much for joining us on Missing BTS Hours. Again, I'm Cindy, and I really hope you enjoyed listening. I always place the things that we talk about in the show notes, so check that out. And and also subscribe to Missing BTS Hours to stay with us for each new episode. I also have an Instagram page at Missing BTS Hours, and we'll be posting updates and reminders of new episode launches, so also check that out. We will see you soon. Thanks.